Hey, Tribe Builders. I am super, super stoked to introduce you to my guest today because she's freaking amazing. I've gotten to watch her over the last couple of years and it has been really freaking fun. And it's because of just like the hurdles that she's jumping and all self-imposed because that's what business owners do. We do self-imposed crazy things. So I can't wait for her to explain that. But I met this gal in JDC, which is Jason Drees Coaching, probably like 4 years ago, maybe 5. I guess I don't even know. Yeah, and it's been really, really fun to watch her just progress in the world that she's been progressing in. So, without further ado, Tato, Corcoran, both, whatever, because she just got married. Hi, how are you?
I'm amazing. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to hang out with me for, however long we record for. So, please tell people what you got going on and, why you're awesome.
Wow. Well, how does one answer such a question? Yeah, so you and I met because I was kind of moving into entrepreneurialism from my W-2 career. I worked at a big tech company called Salesforce for almost a decade, and kind of knew I was going to do something else, and but didn't really know what. And then COVID was the impetus to me having the space and time, since we were working remotely, to kind of figure that out. And due to some kind of convenient family moves, my part of my family wound up in the Midwest, and I started investing in real estate there. And so that was kind of like my foray into entrepreneurialism, and fell down a super deep real estate investment rabbit hole. One which I still have not climbed out of. Real estate is like my favorite thing. And got into some masterminding and coaching because, kind of being around people who are doing what you're doing is so important if you're trying to super excel as a human. So, that's where I met you, which has been amazing. And then from there, like in a super nutshell, we can expound on whatever you want today. But I'm still very, very involved in real estate, own and am always actively building my rental portfolio, but have also moved into small business acquisition. So acquired a manufacturing company almost 3 years ago. And that is really what keeps me busy day to day, and has been equal parts great and a total shitstorm. So now we're to today.
Okay, I can't believe it's been almost 3 years that
Yeah,
you bought
June
that because,
30th. June 30th. So we're
wow.
almost there. Crazy.
Yeah, so I say that, anybody listening, because holy Hannah, like I remember just when she was, just underwriting the deal, and then it was okay, I have this thing under contract, and then it's okay, I have this guy that I bought this business from, I have his advice for a few months, and now it's just been holy Hannah. Can
Mm-hmm.
you, I guess I want an overview of that, like truly the business buying process, and because where you were at, at month 1, month 6, month 12, month
Yeah.
18, it's all like I've seen some of the roller coasters. So, just
Yeah.
just give some stuff about
I
it.
mean, honestly, like I could like go on for 10 hours and we still wouldn't detail everything. But I think at a high level, what I normally say when asked a similar question is this. Like, it is in some ways really similar to real estate in that you get what you pay for, right? Fundamentally, if you were to break down the couple different real estate options that you have, you can buy something that's relatively turnkey. That has lots of pros to it, right? You hit the ground running, whatever, but you have maybe less equity, less runway to make it, nicer, better, or whatever. And it's a little bit of a longer term game to like get your cash back, etc. Or you can buy a shithole, make it better. You'll put a lot of work into it, but you'll buy something for 100 grand, it'll be worth 300, and maybe you only put 50 grand into it. All of a sudden now you have a big equity spread, and that's how you generate wealth. I'm super simplifying things, but small business is similar in that way and also very different. I bought a fixer upper without meaning to. I very much did not buy something turnkey. I bought something really small. It was crumbling. It was about to go extinct. There was just so much about it that I did not have going for me. But what gave me the runway to, turn it around, make it better, make it more valuable. I've been able to, I bought it super cheap. And so my risk was really low, right? Like if I messed it up, I was losing essentially nothing. Versus if I had bought something turnkey, which I would not have because I wouldn't have had the confidence to do so, or the funding, etc. But it would have been expensive, right? I would have faced much higher risk, less ability to turn around, create value, blah, blah, blah. So in that way, those two things are similar, but they're different in that a small business is like, it's like a living, breathing thing. Like real estate is not. It is a structure that you can improve, you can rent it out and make money. A business is really nothing more than a collection of people who work for you and a collection of people who buy from you. And people are complicated, and that makes business complicated. What was the original question?
It was just like about what you bought. It's okay. It's just like literally about what you bought and like the process and all of that stuff.
So all that to say, I bought a fixer-upper. It required a major turnaround. Again, we can go into any detail that you want. I basically started with one staff person, so I had to totally rebuild staff. This was also in 2022. So if everybody can take themselves back to the middle of 2022, if you were manufacturing a product, right, you were at the mercy of supply chain, which was a nightmare at that time. So I had to rebuild a staff during one of the most major labor crunches we've seen in recent times. Had to figure out supply chain, like already didn't know anything and then had to figure out, that. There was just so many things. Nothing I touched was like, oh, okay, that actually is good, so we'll leave that alone. No, it's like I've turned over every stone, and I'm still turning over stones. It's a super long process. But like I said, it's like a super fluid, complex thing. And so every single day you're winning and you're losing, and you just try to like improve the ratio of win to loss. Like I started with all losses, and then I like slowly was able to belt some wins, and then now I'm like on the I win more than I lose, thank God. But, yeah.
And so you're still afloat and you're actually making money. You're turning a profit pretty much all 12 months of the year, or I know you have one or two slow months, but okay.
Yes. And I spent a really long time not only not making money, but actually like actively losing it. So come a long way.
And this whole entire time, how have you been able to pay yourself in any way, shape, or form?
I definitely started without paying myself. Well, is that true? I guess technically I paid myself some amount since the beginning. It was like a super small amount though.
What does a super small amount mean? Like a couple $100, $1,000?
Yeah, I probably started paying myself maybe $500 a month or something like that. And then it went up to 1,000. And then to be honest, today we're in a really financially stable place, but I actually choose to still only salary myself at $1,500 a month because I'm really focused on beefing up cash in the business. And also I'm focused on drawing distributions at certain times. So you can look at it, several different ways. Like some people prefer to salary themselves like 100K or whatever and have that be really healthy and then like have smaller distributions or whatever. But when we went from like losing money to just breaking even to making a little money, but then I had to take all that money and invest in growth to, okay, I did that. Now we're making like money. And so now I have like, I'm not rich, but like I can invest in growth and also have money. And so I decided, okay, now that I have enough to like pay myself, live well, invest in growth, and also have money left over, I really want to keep money in the business. Like my goal is to always have like 150K in the business bank account.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Awesome. If you knew what you knew now, I would think honestly 18 months in Tato and, almost 3 years in Tato, or would have a different opinion. But if you knew now all the stuff that you were going to go through, would you have still done it?
No, for sure not.
What would you have done instead though?
That's what's hard about that question is like, if I actually really knew how much it would have taken, no, like there's no way. But what would I have done differently? I don't know. It's so hard. Like I don't have no, I wouldn't have done that, but I would have done XYZ thing. So maybe the answer really is like, yeah, I guess I would have, because I don't have a good alternative. I think I just would have done things, again, hindsight's always 20/20, but I would have prioritized certain things way more than, like there are a couple key things I would have really prioritized, I think, that could have made my life a lot easier.
So prioritize within running the business or
Yeah.
buying the business or something else.
Maybe both, but largely running it. Yeah.
Okay.
There's things about the business that I really like. I guess if I had to start with a clean slate, there are definitely a couple key things that I would look for to be different. But not a ton. But yeah, in the moment, you just have to figure out how to survive. And so you're faced with decisions and you make the best decision you can in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And very few decisions are permanent, of course. So, these are things I can go work on and am working on it. It's just that sometimes reversing key things can be drawn out and a little painful. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So I'm not intending to have a trash talk fest or anything about people in the market that sell ideas like this, but I
Uh-huh.
would like to know. I see, I feel like once you get into real estate, you do kind of start branching out, or there's a lot of people that talk about all these different kinds of business streams because you should
Mm-hmm.
have multiple streams of income, buy boring businesses and buy car washes and laundromats and all
Mm-hmm.
these things. Tell me what you think those people that are preaching that kind of stuff are lacking. Like, what things are under the hood that it's like, oh, but they really don't talk about these few things.
Yeah.
Like, do you have, like, tell me what that is? Because I know you see it.
So, in my experience, there's very few media streams like produced by people who've actually stood in shoes like mine. There was a great podcast owner operated that unfortunately they've now niched down into HVAC specifically because they own HVAC businesses, but like they're the real deal. Like those people actually bought small businesses, suffered like the rest of us, figured out how to make money and have done really well with it. Acquiring Minds, even though the host Will Smith has never owned a business, he brings on people who are like in the trenches, like just like me. Beyond that, those two, and anybody who brings me something to disprove me, I'll be excited because I'm always wanting to consume this type of content. I feel like the rest of that content is produced by people who have never actually been in the trenches. And it's not meant to like denigrate them. Like I'm sure that they have lots of great skills and like things that we could all learn from. So I guess it kind of depends on like the type of content you want to consume. Like some people are good at underwriting deals or are good at like, numbers behind monthly cash flow, etc. When I seek out content, I want to hear from other people who have actually done the shit that I do every day personally.
Yeah.
So I guess like in a nutshell, the answer to your question is like they're just like lacking actual experience, Here's like a perfect example. I had this guy reach out to me not too long ago at all from an SMB community. SMB is small to medium sized business. It was like in a community forum, and he wanted to like basically, I don't know, like put together some kind of event with me about acquiring businesses. And so like naturally the first thing I asked was like, oh cool, like what did you acquire? What do you do? Da, da, da. And he had this like really roundabout answer about like why he's never actually acquired anything. And I was like, okay, like I'm sure you're a super cool dude. So I'm not like discrediting you as a person, but like I just don't understand why I would like host an event with you.
Somebody
Like
who's
I
never
don't
done it
understand
before.
what you're bringing to the table. So anyways, I think it's easy to learn the metrics of laundromats and the oversimplify things, I think is a good way to put it. But you just don't know until you do it. And it's like that with anything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I guess now I'm thinking of like, how do you find, this is two questions.
Yeah.
How do you find the right people to follow in this realm? Like you just talked about a couple of people that's who you want to. How did you find them? How did you decide that yes, indeed, did they actually come out and say that they did it? Or did you actually have to look around to find out, well, does this guy really own these 4 businesses that he's talking about? Or is he the COO of one of them? And then my second one is about finding communities that are like this. But first of all, like how do you find the people?
So I've definitely like multiple different times spent like an hour just like deep down a Spotify rabbit hole and just like trying excerpts of podcasts and just kind of seeing what sticks. So I find some stuff that way. I was fortunate enough to be asked to go on a couple podcasts. particularly Acquiring Minds. So that's how I found Acquiring Minds. I didn't know about it
Mm-hmm.
until I was asked to be on it. And that podcast is totally the real deal and fantastic. And then from there, like, honestly, anytime I find somebody who I feel is a peer, meaning like they're doing something similar to me, that's one of the first things I ask them. Like first of all, I say, like, are you a content consumer? Because some people aren't. But a lot of people are. And I'm like, what are you reading? What are you listening to? Like, where are you going for advice? Da da da. And I'm a huge, like, rinse and repeat person. I'm a huge copier. Like, I'm not looking to reinvent shit here. And I always tell people, I'm like, copy everything I do. I mean, okay, maybe not everything, like, but like,
Within reason.
yeah, why go figure your own shit out? If I found what works, do it.
Mm-hmm. And then further, have you found communities like you were just talking about S&B? That probably means that I mean, obviously you live in the lingo because you are the lingo, because this is like the trenches you're in. How have you found people in the trenches to like literally get advice from, talk to? Because I know more about the behind the scenes about the guy that you bought it from, and he's not necessarily part of your community.
Right.
I mean, he's not. But you've had to like figure this stuff out, and I know a lot of it's been solo, but when you do go for advice, how are you finding these people?
Good question. Well, obviously you know this, but we were fortunate enough to have an amazing group of super uniquely smart and talented individuals from our original mastermind group kind of branch off and do our own mastermind. And even though it's very informal by nature, I feel like there's a certain amount of formality to it because we all have a really similar level of like discipline and appreciation for business as like a way of life and mindset as a way of life. And that is like the type of super small group community that I hold extremely sacred. Like if I don't know, just like when you're on a call, like, treat it like it's important. Don't be doing other stuff, just things like that. And so that is a group where I derive a ton of advice, definitely. We all have unique backgrounds. So I would say, like, maybe I can't get specific tactical advice about like a manufacturing
Manufacturing?
thing.
Nope,
But
none of us have that.
sometimes asking someone who has limited context but has this phenomenally sharp mind for other things can give you equally valuable, if not more valuable, insight and information. So that is a group that I hold sacred. And I really think that's just a matter of like bringing together a couple like-minded people who are just as intentional as you are. Like, I think above anything else, it's seeking out people who are just as intentional as you are. That is so much easier said than done. To find an intentional human is actually incredibly challenging and something that's like very exciting when it happens. But anyways, and then I had mentioned that I've been lucky enough to be on some podcasts, and those podcasts get traction and you have other people, people reach out to you like, oh, I heard your podcast. And then they tell you how they related to that podcast. And that actually spawned me to be able to find one other acquirer who was local to the Milwaukee market. There weren't a lot of people out here, or aren't, that I know of. And he was like, hey, one time I hosted a happy hour meetup for anybody who was interested in the space. It was great, but then I never did it again. Like, would you want to co-host? And I'm like, oh, that would be amazing. That's totally up my alley. So we've done that a couple times. So that's been kind of an enjoyable way to meet some more local people. But it definitely, that local group doesn't hold the like great weight that I feel like our weekly group does. I definitely feel like I lack like a true operators group. And probably lots of other operators similar to me would say the same thing. Like, it would be awesome to find a group of people who are doing something really, really similar, because they're for sure out there and they're just as lonely, and figure out how to get them together. But it's a work in progress for sure.
Yeah, well, if anybody's listening that is like an operator of, honestly, like a business that's I would call it a tangible business, I guess.
Yeah,
Like you go in real
exactly.
life and there are
Yeah,
products in real life that you're producing that are really
yeah,
big. That's like reach out to me because I would love to put you in touch with Tato. I
yeah.
know a
I
couple
love
of you at least that do stuff like that. And it's so interesting because we all have such different backgrounds of like how
that.
you got there. Because you just like well, I'm going to have you explain that. But I've got a friend that also started a business, but it's his family business. And then he just has an offshoot department that's really about this very specific thing because he saw that it was a need and his mind was like, oh, I want to build this business. How did you decide? Um, like, how did that happen? Like, did
Yeah,
you like you were in California working for Salesforce, doing your thing, and then
yeah,
obviously there was real estate that happened, but you're just like, yeah, I want to buy a business. And were you
yeah,
choosy on what kind of business? Because you literally have kind of like a manufacturing business. Like you have a
yeah,
big, huge building that's
yeah.
dirty and amazing, and I love everything about it, by the way. But like, how did that happen, and how did
Yeah.
it happen that way instead of an HVAC company or an
Mhm.
electrician or a landscaper?
I get the question a lot. The honest answer is no, I was not choosy at all. So I'm just like super action oriented. Like when I decide I want to try something, like I really want to try it.
Mm-hmm.
And some peers from the JDC community were not necessarily transitioning out of real estate, but they were pairing real estate with buying a business,
Mm-hmm.
really just under the hypothesis of, okay, most people know that building cash flow in real estate is a super slow game, right? It is a
Mm-hmm.
long-term wealth generator. And so what can I buy or build to generate, much higher month over month cash flow that I can then put back into real estate? And they were
Mm-hmm.
like, well, silver tsunami, is a term that's used and I'm sure familiar by a lot of people. There's so many people retiring without a plan. Why don't I go buy their businesses for pennies on the dollar, make them a little more modern, turn them into, a really great cash flow generator? And that
Mm-hmm.
just made a ton of sense to me. And I was like, cool, like I really want to try that. I also felt like I had very little to lose. Like I still am young, obviously, but I was still like in my late 20s, had a great job, knew I could get a job again if it all went to shit,
Yeah.
like no family, no marriage, no kids. Like you just don't have a lot to lose, in that place. And I'm very
Mm-hmm.
risk averse, clearly. So, or risk tolerant, sorry, risk tolerant.
Yes. Yeah, you have
Um,
high risk
the
tolerance.
opposite of risk averse. And so I looked at a ton of different things. I was very open. This was the first deal that actually came to fruition where I felt my risk was hedged enough that I was comfortable moving forward. And what I mean by that is the guy was textbook what we just said. Like he wanted to retire, he had no plan. Honestly, he really didn't have a business. Like that, if you actually define what the word business is, it was not this, but whatever.
He had stuff. He had a
He had
building. He had
he
stuff
had
in his
stuff
building, and he
and a
kind of had a
person who earned a
process.
paycheck to help him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you mentioned the building. Yes, it's big. It's on an acre of land in a very desirable manufacturing park. And I was basically like, well, your land is worth 750, so like that's what I'll pay you, and he had no other options and very begrudgingly he accepted. And so it was also during like really favorable interest rate times. And so like
Mm-hmm.
I just knew that I was paying a good amount for the building,
Mm-hmm.
and if I the business up, my mortgage is so
Yeah.
low, I could easily rent it and still make money. There was very little downside. So
Gotcha.
for really those reasons alone, I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
see how it is. Um, and then that was kind of the beginning.
How did you finance? Like, did he actually do a seller carryback or any of that kind of stuff, or did
A
you
little
actually
bit.
bank loan it?
So I did bank loan it, but what's cool is I actually only have a real estate loan. So it was I was very comfortable with the process. It was very similar to
Mm-hmm.
what I was used to. He did hold back 50,000 or $55,000. So there was some holdback. Yes. All the deal terms were favorable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, my loan is straightforward, but I mean, I made like 150,000 mistakes, of course, like makes me laugh.
So,
But
how did you like? How did you actually negotiate this deal? Like, did you just come in off the street and you figure this out? Did you
yeah,
actually have a business broker? What did that look like?
okay, so ironically, I'm a huge direct mail person. That's how I've acquired most of my real estate. It's how I have acquired a lot of my new customers in my business and grown my business. And so I was doing direct mail marketing to find a business. And ironically, actually found this guy through a broker. So it ended up being sort of the antithesis of what I was doing. But it was broker represented. It had been broker represented for like a year and a half. And I had just like, I had been put in touch with this particular broker who pitched me on this business. And I immediately was like, I don't know. I don't know anything about anything, but I definitely don't know anything about manufacturing. So like, no. And then he came back to me not too long after that and was like, hey, like my listing agreement is about to end. This guy's not going to sign with another broker. He's just going to close. So if you're even like, you have a shred of interest, just like let me walk you through the building. So that's how that happened.
Whoa. So this broker was only representing him though, right? So
Yeah.
you didn't have anybody
No.
representing on your side. Did he get double, like, so in a normal real estate situation when there's only one broker, they get both sides kind of thing.
No.
So you didn't have anybody, it was really just you sitting over here like, nope, this is what I want.
Yeah.
Were you part of like a program? Like there's programs everywhere for buying businesses. Were you part of a program or you were literally just winging it?
Nope. I was just winging it, which is how I roll in life. I did obtain a lawyer. He ended up being a terrible lawyer. So that was unfortunate. Like I would have been better off without him. But ultimately, again, I say there's a million things that I did wrong, and that is true. And I could list them all out and tell you why they were wrong and why it would be better for someone to do them differently. But at the end of the day, it was not a complicated deal. It was straightforward. It ended up being all good. Yeah.
That's awesome. And how much did you have to come to the table with? Like, I see there's all kinds of equity there, there's value there, but you still had to come with a check in your hand that day of closing, right?
I came to the table with like, I should know this right off the top of my head, like 100 or 120,000, but that was really only the beginning. Like a lot of the places where my mistakes lied, if I said that right, were not knowing what I was walking into and not protecting myself or preparing myself. So that was really the beginning. I was prepared with the down payment. That was no big deal. But I was totally unprepared for the hemorrhage of money thereafter that lasted for about 10 months.
Yeah, I was going to say it was about a year or something until you guys finally, at least were breaking even.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was drastically underprepared for that. And that's really where I would like, there's several different areas where like I would drill in and give people like serious advice where I'm like, no, you actually should listen to what the fuck I'm saying. But that's one of them is just understanding what, is coming at you the first 6 to 9 months and making sure you're financially prepared for it. I always say this, but it is true. Like, I feel like you always hear like, all these like big stars or little people, like Cuban or just regular people who are like, oh, when you have no idea, like in the beginning, like I maxed every credit card and I, it got a loan on this and whatever. And you're kind of always like, oh yeah. Like, I'm sure he exaggerated that or whatever. Oh my God, that shit is so real. Like I have never turned over so many couch pillows looking for money. I have never experienced stress like that in my whole life. Like I just crazy, like line of credit, $50,000 maxed out. Like applied for every credit card I can think of, 20K limit, maxed out, like just crazy.
And this kind of stuff was literally just to keep the doors open. That was to buy, supplies, to make sure to pay people, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And there's like a lot to it. We don't have to get super granular, but when you're buying a business, you're buying cash flow, you're buying, receivables and payables. And I didn't foresee the fact that there was going to be a lag time between when I started and when I actually got receivables, but the business never stops costing you money, And so I was really undercapitalized in that way. And there's specific things I would have done very differently. So there was that. And then also too, like I just didn't even think about the fact that the business had like 2 employees and I had to go hire like 6 more people. I don't know how it didn't occur to me that was going to be a really costly endeavor. Yeah. So
because you had never had employees at that point, like maybe some contractors and 1099s, but not employees.
Exactly. So that's a lot of things I could get into, but yeah.
Okay, so I like to ask people about self-limiting beliefs,
Mm.
and clearly, I know this about you. I know that you have them, but clearly, you're just like, nope, doesn't matter. I'm gonna just keep barreling through. So tell me some of your self-limiting beliefs that you've noticed over the years, and like how you've been barreling through.
Oh man, that's tough. You're right. I think that like this isn't the same thing, obviously, but self-confidence I've never been short of. So I think that that's a big reason why I've just kind of, like you say, like just barreled through and just tried shit out. I would say the majority of my self-limiting beliefs have stemmed from being the leader of employees. And that has really surprised me. I have found it um, difficult to figure out how to be a leader of my employee base. And specifically, what I mean by that is, I own a manufacturing company which is made up of general labor employees. So general labor, uneducated. This particular population of humans are also all immigrants. So nobody was born and raised in America. In fact, most people have spent less than a year in America up to this point. Um, and that is just and they're the lowest wage earners, right? They basically are like, they check every box except criminal. I currently don't have any criminals on staff. Previously, yes. Currently, no. And that is just like the summary of a population of humans I have literally never liaised with in my whole life,
Mm-hmm.
much less tried to lead and inspire. Furthermore, my business is dusty, dirty, it smells, and everything is really heavy. So basically, the job sucks. Um, and so that has been a journey that I still feel I'm only at the beginning of. It's been very challenging. And I think when I say it's been very challenging, that is reminiscent of like those self-limiting beliefs. Like I definitely, that's where most of them lie.
Yeah.
Is how could I really actually relate to them, understand them? Like, how can I actually like give them a better life by working for me? I like
Mm-hmm.
to think that I can, but a lot of days I'm like, okay, I guess I just can't. Like, I guess we're just another workplace. Just things like that.
Uh-huh. And how have you got through some of them? Like, I mean, truly, have you found somebody to help you with things like this, to like talk through things like this? Because
Mm-hmm.
you're right. Like, so people that maybe haven't picked up on this, we have a group, we have a group. I talk to Tato, a few times a month. We talk every week, but none of us have a business like this. So we can't, you're right. Like certain people can't advise you on that. Like they can give you some, hey, this is what I think, but that doesn't mean anything. So if you
Yeah.
found somebody to help with something like this is so specific.
So, the short answer is yes. The long answer is it's ever evolving, right? Like you can never have too many sources of people to go to about certain things. I have found that specific to people management, there's kind of two types of humans. There's people who, whether they have experience managing people or not, will just stop you before your sentence ends and be like, "Oh yeah, fuck managing people. That is the worst part of anything and the reason I either hate my business or would never do business or
Yeah,
whatever."
not
It's this
helpful.
it's the same exact kind of person who's like, I would never tenants, I would never have rental properties, and they just like blow you off
Mm-hmm.
and you're kind of like, okay, like totally get that. Probably what you're saying is like completely true, but like just not really like my kind of
Helpful.
person. And I've like allowed some of those people to give like some level of advice, and it's typically not advice that like I feel, really hits me emotionally. And then the other type of people, it doesn't necessarily matter if they have experience managing others or not. They just have this really evolved like way of thinking about interpersonal dynamics.
Mhm.
And I think the person who comes to mind in our group, the gentleman who's just so like, he just has this way of zooming out and making things really impersonal, but also personal.
Mhm.
Um, and so that, like, a lot of times I just need not like necessarily spiritual advice, but like, it's not about, okay, was it okay or not that Jose, punched in 5 minutes late? Like I like zoom out. Like, why am I feeling this way about my employees or about a certain employee? Can you help me unpack that? Like, is
Mm-hmm.
it something that I'm bringing, emotionally or spiritually? Is it like, what is it? And so I found that like that type of kind of like zoomed out advice where people can analyze like, well, what kind of baggage are you bringing to the table? What kind of perception are you bringing? And then like, let's try to transform ourselves into their shoes and think like where they're coming from and how maybe they're kind of like thinking about things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been hugely powerful. The other thing I've done that has been also really powerful, and honestly, this is like a tactical thing anybody can go do, and I highly recommend it. There's almost never a reason that you can't solve something or do something or figure something out. Someone out there is doing what it is that you're trying to figure out. You just have to go find them. I hit a point it was like late last year. I had like a couple specific HR things come up that I was like, shit, like I actually like have no idea what the right answer is here. And in fact, I was in a meeting with one of my employees. It was a one-on-one, and he specifically pointed out to me in a complaining fashion, which is annoying, but his complaint was that XYZ thing was not fair. And I was like, fuck, like he's totally right. Like this is not fair. But you can't tell your employee that. You can't like agree with them. And so I left that day being like, man, like I actually have no idea how to solve this very specific thing where I agree with him. It's not fair, but it's company policy. So, too bad. Um, and I came home and I was like telling my husband that I was like, I don't know how to solve this thing. And I, judge me or not, go to Starbucks seven mornings a week. 7 mornings a week I'm at Starbucks. And the manager is always there. And it just like occurred to me in like talking this out with my husband. I was like, oh my God, like that Starbucks manager is literally there every day. Like I bet he deals with so much bullshit, employees, obnoxious people who think their lattes are too hot or whatever. I was like, I'm going to go talk to that guy. And I did that. My husband was like, you should definitely do that. I'm sure he just wanted the conversation to end. But so I no lie showed up at 6 a.m. the next morning and the manager wasn't standing there. And I was like, where is that guy? So I asked one of the employees, I was like, hey, your manager, he's like the short guy. Like, is he here? And they're like, oh yeah, no, he's in the back. They're like, oh, is he expecting you? I was like, no, definitely not. Like, can I talk to him? And so he like comes out with this concerned look on his face and he was like, can I help? Like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, no, it's totally fine. I was like, do you recognize me? And he was like, yeah, no, I actually definitely do. And I was like, okay, great. This is literally so random. But I own a general labor business and I really need some help with regard to people management. And I see you run this Starbucks. I don't know how long you've been here, but I can imagine you deal with more bullshit than I do in a day. And I bet you're pretty good at it. So would you be like, I'll pay you. Would you be willing to help me, on your off hours? And he was like, totally. And turns out he's managed Starbucks for 20 years. He's risen the ranks from barista to where he is now. And whenever I need help, I reach out and he tells me when he can take a break from what he's doing. And we sit down, I give him $50 cash and we talk about anything. And it has literally been life-changing.
And all because you were just like, oh, I bet that guy knows. That's
Yeah,
it. Like that's how you found the
totally.
person.
Like honestly, next I would like go to like a Chick-fil-A manager or something. Just like think about like I just you sum up your problem in simplistic terms, right? Like, okay, I deal with dumb employees who have bullshit complaints and I don't know what to do. Okay, that's like, every manager of a general labor business ever. So who can you reach most quickly? Oh, Starbucks guy, fucking perfect. Yeah. So
I remember you telling me about this story, and when you said it, I was just like, that's such a brilliant idea. And it's because, like, it doesn't matter who it is. You just need somebody to be like, oh my God, can you please relate to this and tell me how the heck
yeah.
you would deal with
And
this?
like I literally told him, I was like, I am not here for you to tell me like, attaboy, I'm doing a great job. I don't want to hear that. Like I have problems. I need you to help me fix them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so he did exactly that. Like he was like, he's just super transparent about everything. He has no insight into my actual business. He has no bias, right?
Uh-huh.
And what's actually, this was unforeseen, but ended up being great. I didn't consider the fact that Starbucks is highly formalized. highly regulated, right? Very documented, regimented. And so he approaches everything from, he's like, well, here's the super explicit company policy that I can pull
Yeah,
up
the
on my
guidebook.
phone.
Uh-huh.
Like, so straightforward. Like, any infraction an employee could make is listed there with the corresponding, like, punishment, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as getting a raise just because you're good. Like, it's like, there's a rule to everything, a policy for everything. And
Uh-huh.
so it's funny, he's kind of like, this doesn't feel complicated, but I'm like, you took a job,
But
you're
you're in
doing
charge.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Like, I mean, even you saying, when you said that you were sitting with your employee and then you left and you're just kind of like, well, it's kind of like company policy. I thought immediately, I'm like, but you create the company
right.
policy. So
Yes.
now, but now it's you having to figure out, why is that important to me, and how does
Yes.
that go through our values, and how do
Correct.
I continue? Because you
Very
have to draw a
challenging.
line.
You
You
do.
literally have to draw a line,
Correct.
because otherwise they're going to draw it for you. And then you're like, well, crap, now they all
Correct.
walk all over me. Cool.
Correct. And so Starbucks guy's kind of like, this doesn't seem hard. And I'm like, well,
Teach me your ways then.
it's kind of like, you showed up on day one and Starbucks told you exactly how to do the job. You have the answer to everything, not to discredit him. Like, he's also a fantastic leader, and there's a reason why employees, have loved him for as long as they have. But tactically speaking, he was given the Bible on how to do his job. It's like, I'm writing the Bible. So, that shit's hard.
Yeah, it is.
But I've seen actual results from those, relatively informal conversations that I've just made up and sought out myself. For example, I created a policy around our bonus structure, and specifically, there's a 3-month probationary period for new employees. This is a very common thing, right? You're on probation for your first 3 months. You can leave for any reason. I can fire you for any reason, which, whatever. But in those 3 months, you can't have a raise, and you are not eligible for our quarterly bonuses, which I give my employees. Sure enough, we had this kid, Fabian, start with us at the beginning of the year. Came time for March. It was his 3rd month, but it was still in his probationary period, and he was distraught that he didn't get a bonus. And even a couple people from my team were like, oh, he's such a good worker. Is there any way we can make an exception? And it was in part because of those, community conversations that I have sought out, that I felt empowered to be like, I wrote the company policy. I implement the company policy. I am the policy. Like, the answer is no. I totally understand that you feel upset by that. But it was spelled out for you in the thing that you signed on day one. And I'm not going to make an exception for you. Yeah. And that was, again, it sounds so simplistic. I'm sure listeners are like, wow, like, this bitch has a long way to go. But like, that was like huge for me,
But those are the little things along the way that, like, help us, like, give us confidence in literally being the owner of a company. Like, your manufacturing business could be making millions and millions of dollars a year, and it starts somewhere. Like, Ford started somewhere.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, like, me of 6 or 9 months ago, 100% would have been like, oh, you're right. Like, I don't want him to quit his job. Like, I want him to like me, whatever. Oh, okay, fine, give him the bonus. And that just opens up Pandora's box and whatever. I was like, no, that's the policy. Like, it doesn't change the fact that you're doing an amazing job. And so during his review, I was like, here's all the things you're doing great. I really look forward to bonusing you next quarter. Thank you so much for being here. But per company policy, you're not eligible for a bonus this round.
Did he stay?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Because I was like kind of on the edge of my seat. I'm like, oh, did he leave because he was pissed?
You know what? If he had left over that, then honestly, like, he wasn't meant to stay for the long run anyways. If you can't understand professional components of the business that you work at, then, best of luck finding something that suits you better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're kind of like, you're creating your values and why we stand for them and why we do them and why we don't take shortcuts and why we don't, and you have to be the living, breathing example of all of those rules, because otherwise they're like, you're right. They say that's not fair. Ugh. You never know, like, as a business owner, that's something you'll have to, like, have a discussion about. That, like, when you were a kid and, you said to your parents something wasn't fair, and they gave you whatever answer your parent was capable of giving you. And now as a 30 or 40 something or 50 something owning a business, you also have to do that. And it's just an unexpected way to, yeah, to have business stuff happen.
They tell you that, you know, as a boss, you need to be respected, not liked. And that is an extremely hard pill to swallow, especially for people like you and I who like, I would very much prefer people like me. You know,
Yeah,
that's
we're
definitely
people
best case
pleasers.
scenario. It's really hard for me to make an unpopular decision and have
Hmm.
people groan about it. But that's a whole other philosophical thing that like employees will just never understand what goes into
Uh,
giving them a work opportunity. Like they'll just never understand. And so it
well,
just
they
is.
don't understand too that like I go without. You don't even like, and they don't need to understand. That's not theirs to understand. But if they
It's not.
wanted to have a business, they should go buy one. You know,
Mhm.
I saw something on Facebook the other day of somebody stating how unfair it is that people charge more for dogs and rentals, and that, you know, kids make bigger damages than dogs and all this stuff. And all I want, I didn't say anything, but all I want to say is like, well, if it were up to me, we would have no dogs, cats, or kids that live in houses. Honestly, I would veto all of
As a
them, but that
property
is
owner,
not,
yes.
yes, there's none. But
Yeah.
the other option here
So
is go
true.
buy your own damn house. Like
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
You want to bring 4 kids, 3 dogs, and a cat, and then have 2 adults. Cool. Go buy your own house.
Yeah.
Either go find, you're gonna have to sift through and find
Yeah.
somebody, or you go buy your own house. Like that's how I know sometimes like people just think business owners are so harsh and we're so greedy and all of these like fill in the blank of all the things we get called. But it's like go and try it yourself and then tell me that I'm
Yeah.
greedy, or tell me that, you know, things are unfair, whatever it is,
Yeah.
because they don't, you know, we don't have to show them if we cry, but
It's
we sure as shit cry
one of the
because it's
one of the
gross.
one of the greatest like memes or quotes or whatever I've seen in a long time. I'm sure my mom sent it to me because she sends me like the best inspirational stuff. Is and I'm paraphrasing, but essentially like they don't hate you, they hate what they see in you because it's a reflection of what they're not willing to be. And
Yeah.
it's so true. Not to like go like spiral down into like, you know, a conversation about humanity, but I think doing like doing entrepreneurial things is so hard. And
Mhm.
there's a reason, like everybody can bitch about like the one percenters, but like there's a reason that there's a small amount because it's so hard and people just are not willing
No.
to do what it takes. That's
No,
just a fact. Like
you trade a 40-hour a week or maybe even a 50-hour a week job for an 80 24/7. Like, yes,
risk
technically it's
and
80
less
hours, but it's
stress.
24/7. It's like you don't just shut off. It doesn't matter if you're in Hawaii on your friggin' honeymoon. Guess what? You got employees back home and
Yeah, I
something
worked my
happens
whole
to one of
honeymoon.
them.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
like it just, and those
Yep.
are, but those are still worth it. There's like people like me and you that are like, yep, worth the trade-off.
Yeah.
Maybe I would love to do things differently, but it's
Yeah.
still worth the trade-off. Like, I don't know. I guess I'll take having to text somebody in an alleyway in Greece walking to dinner with my
Yeah.
husband because something broke. I'll take that because I get
Hmm.
to go to Greece for 3 weeks. Like,
Hmm.
I just, and my businesses are different than yours, obviously, because
Hmm.
I'm not like I have to be on site or anything in a manufacturing place, but we choose, you know, we choose our hard. We choose what's
Hmm.
blech and what's like, oh
Yeah.
my God, that's so fun.
Yeah.
So
It's true.
I love that you've done that. I've got a couple more questions and then we'll wrap up. But what do you think your superpower is, Tato?
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's tough. I think that I think my superpower is um doing. I'm just a doer. Like I just don't let anything stop me. If I'm going to do something, I do it. Um sounds simple, but it's really not. I just feel like everyone's always like, "Oh, one day I'm going to do blah blah blah." And I'm like, "No, today is today." Um
I hate those comments.
I'm very fearless in that way.
Mhm.
And I like to think that I do it with uh, a light and happy and kind heart. That has been more challenging in recent times as things are difficult, but I like to think that I am a I like to think that one of my superpowers is I have always known innately exactly who I am and I do not stray from it.
Mhm. Yeah, I would agree with that. Like the version of Tato that I know is kind of always the same version of Tato that I always know. So that's awesome.
I'm just
Okay, and
specific
then
on myself.
yeah, I think you're good at that. I would agree with that statement. Okay, and then I guess last thing is what's next for you? Like, is it keeping your business on autopilot for the next 5 years and figuring that out? Is it buying another business? Like, I know this changes month to month as well. Like when
Yeah,
we're having a crappy month, we're just like
it
sell it
does.
all. But
Totally.
what does it look like, the next few years?
Yeah. I get that question a lot and it is hard to answer. I think that I still have a really long way to go with making this particular business really valuable and saleable. Like
Hmm.
people are always like, "Oh, so you're going to sell." Like, well, I didn't say that, but it should be saleable, you know?
Hmm.
I have still like definitely a long ways to go with that, and so I really want to see that through. And I want to get to a place where I actually own an enterprise worth a significant amount of money.
Hmm.
Um, and at the same time, buy as much real estate as possible. Like that's always like been, I know, like I always get on these podcasts and all we talk about is the business, but like running parallel to that always is our, real estate pursuit. We always have a project going and so we're always kind of evolving like how we approach that. Do we get into new development, et cetera. So just kind of figuring out, how we run as quickly as we can on both sides of the house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because your husband also, doesn't he have a business now of his own?
Yeah. Yeah. So he specializes in high-end tile installation. So he
Hmm.
does that, but he kind of he straddles that and our real estate. So he tries to only work part-time because he's the one like moving our business or our property forward. And then
Hmm.
I'm like full-time, like generating the cash flow to fund the real estate purchases.
Wow, that's
So
super cool.
yeah,
So
that
you guys
that
pay
always
your
will apply.
bills. How do you guys pay your bills then? Like that
Um,
means like your
I
business is paying the bills or
That
what?
has definitely evolved because at first it was like me sliding the stack of bills across the table to him because he was the only person earning money. But I've taken the stack back. So I pay for everything day to day. We still live super cheaply. Like we house
Mhm.
hack, we live in a duplex, the girls upstairs pay our mortgage, blah, blah, blah. That's been real, like total delayed gratification, intentional choice. But my income and some distribution, certainly not all of it, from the business pay our day to day. And then our business acquisitions are, or real estate acquisitions are a mix. It's kind of like, okay, who has more money in their non business account
Mhm.
um, to kind of make the down payment and all that. And then the actual renovation. One thing that's been really fun is since we both wound up with businesses in the construction space, again, not on purpose, we've really figured out how to make the absolute best of that. So we've been able to establish a ton of really great connections with people who will do good work for us inexpensively, or on the side or what have you.
Mhm.
Buy certain material in volume through suppliers for a better deal, and then more than anything, we have figured out how to bring in a certain amount of retail customers who are willing to pay cash in exchange for a discount on the material and labor. And so we actually fund a lot of our rehab through cash,
Mhm.
which is like definitely glorified like laundering money, but that's a whole other thing. Working for us. So yeah. So anyways, we kind of uniquely bring all those things together to make it all
Cool.
work. But that's been like a cool side effect of the business that nobody did on purpose.
Yeah, it's really cool also that like your business really does pay your everyday bills because I think a
Yeah,
lot of people look at real estate investors specifically and you have multiple things going on, so that's nice. But they think like, well, how on earth are they paying their bills? Like people
yeah,
question me all the time like how we pay our bills, and the question or the answer is I have no idea. When Matt is
yeah,
working, honestly, Matt's paying all of our bills and then mine is just doing this thing. So it's been really interesting to start asking people stuff like that because
for
we're all
sure.
so different. Like and
Yep.
honestly, the answer is always comes down to we make it work. No
Yes.
idea. Like if this is another thing, if somebody asked you,
Yeah.
would you do this again? You'd be like, ooh, some months, nope, I wouldn't because I
It-
feel like a jerk. But we've
yeah,
always been able to pay all of them, so that's all that matters.
for sure. Yeah. It's interesting. I think, you know, look, growing is expensive, right? Like we're growing real estate businesses, we're growing our manufacturing company, like we're just like growing, 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 and that you're just like in this forever state of brokenness. But I would absolutely not trade. I would not trade it for W-2 financial stability ever for any reason. Like that
Yeah.
sounds so insane, but I just wouldn't.
Not to me, and probably not to most people that listen to this. Because
Yeah.
seriously, financial stability is it's still kind of a joke. I mean, truly, like, I guess you're in the driver's seat. Like, if all of a sudden you don't have money, the only way is like you have to figure it out.
Mhm.
Whereas, somebody could fire you at any time. So that,
Mhm.
that security, the word
I think too,
financial
like,
security.
yeah, like I just can't imagine going back to like having like a
Somebody tell you what
ceiling
to
on me.
do. Ugh.
Like I was, yeah, like I was visiting a girlfriend not too long ago in Atlanta, and she has the job's still relatively new, and she's like elated to be making, like she's making good money, like 160K or whatever for a tech job. And like, don't get me wrong, like
Mhm.
that's great money for
Yeah.
sure. But then we were talking about like what she actually takes home month to month. I forget why. And she was like, "Well, I get a paycheck every 2 weeks. My take home is about 3,500, so it's like 7,000 a month in take home."
Hmm.
And in that moment, I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, I can't imagine going back to a place where like every month I knew that I was
Yeah.
gonna. I hate to say only,
Hmm.
because it sounds like I'm belittling people. I'm not at all, but like where I was gonna only make $7,000. Like I just can't. I
Hmm.
can't imagine the like rinse and repeat of that, and I can't imagine the cap of that.
Yeah,
Like
you get to a
I
point where you're just like, well, that's I
I can
want
make
more.
that. I can make that in a day. Like it's like a good day. Don't get me wrong, but I can easily make that in a day. And like I just can't imagine. Yeah, I don't know. It like fascinated me. I was like,
Hmm.
wow.
Yeah, well, it's a
So
leveling up. Your mind starts
yeah.
leveling up, and you're just like, well, why bother? And
Hmm.
I will always take less if it means I have flexibility. Like
Hmm.
flexibility to me is literally the king of everything. Like I don't care about any other thing. If somebody tells me it can be flexible, I have a hard
Yeah.
time. Sometimes I still pick up clients here and there that I'm just like, man, I gotta be there at that time.
Yeah.
What? Like why? But that's
Right.
the trade-offs, like I work my butt off for a few months here and there or a few
Yeah.
weeks here and there as to not have to work my butt off other times.
Yeah.
So
For sure. I get
it's
it.
all the trade-offs, trade-offs, trade-offs.
Hmm.
Okay, if somebody wants to reach out to you and talk to you about maybe business stuff or anything, are they able to, and how do they do it?
Of course, absolutely. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I have a super weird name, so I'm really easy to find. And then you are welcome to post my email as well.
Okay, so people that are looking, her name is Tato Corcoran. You can look in the show notes. That's where it'll be. And just reminding you that if you started a business and need, some support or want to create a group, reach out to me because I'm going to now probably be determined to find a few people for Tato to have a group with,
Okay, amazing.
because it would be really cool. So thank you
Yes,
so much for the time, Tato. I think you're incredible. It's been so fun to watch this over the last few years. I can't believe it's been 3, but it's fascinating to me to watch like the version of you 3 years ago that worked for Salesforce to today. I'm just like, it's mind blowing. And it's so neat. So I love it. Thank you for sharing with
Mwah.
me and
You're
my
the
people.
greatest.
All right. Bye guys. Have a great day.